Good morning. As we continue now, we're turning to an appendix in the back of the Sefer, in which the author elaborates on certain matters. And the focus of this first appendix is about contemplating the infinite light. And he says that the Ramban teaches that it's permitted for us to picture to ourselves the concept of the infinite by using light as a metaphor, because light is something which we are familiar with, which we are familiar. Even though in the spiritual realm, light does not exist, and whatever spiritual forces do exist there, they're nothing like light as we know it in our world. And therefore, a person should not think that there is actually some sort of an infinite light, and that infinite light is somehow like the light that we experience in our lifetimes. However, since we have no choice but to contemplate to some extent about the infinite and about the revelation to us about the existence of Hashem, but at the same time, as human beings, we don't have the capacity to contemplate, to feel, and to experience things that are not part of our experience, or that we can't understand them in relation to those things which are part of our experience. Therefore, even though we need to know that the infinite, and again, even infinite is not the right word, but that's the word we have to use, is in no way comparable to anything that we are with which we are familiar, still, the metaphor that our sages chose to use to give us some realm of understanding is the metaphor of light. And therefore, we're accustomed to using light as the metaphor. And just like there's in the physical world a concept of light, which lights up. And actually, we know scientifically, and this is me throwing this in, that light is really just another manifestation of the energy that really powers everything that exists. So too, we describe the spiritual existence as the light of God that exists all over. And that gives us a handle to be able to speak about and describe to some extent the spiritual involvement in our existence. For example, just as like where I'm sitting now, you can see all the light behind me. There's light streaming in the window. There's a light behind me on the other side. The room in which I'm in clearly appears full of light. So too, we should imagine to ourselves that the God and the spiritual forces permeate everything that we see and everything that we experience, similar to the light. And that's one way of contemplating things that gives us the capacity to connect to God. Because again, to think directly about God, that's really something that we lack the capacity to do because we have no understanding whatsoever of what God is. And how can you think about something about which you have no understanding? Therefore, since Hashem wanted that his creations should have some grasp and some connection and relationship to him, so therefore the metaphor of light was chosen. But again, he repeats this over and over again. And one of the reasons why he's being very repetitive over here is because one of the mistakes that many people who have studied Kabbalah over the centuries have made is to take the physical metaphors that are used to describe Kabbalah, and they think that those are referring to actualities when they are really just metaphors. So this is only a metaphor when we use light. It's only a way of getting a grasp on matters, but there really is no light. As you continue to study this, you gain an appreciation for the entire spiritual structure of Kabbalah. You begin to understand and internalize the fact that these are just metaphors and that the realities are things that we can't and we lack the ability to actually express. But until we have the ability to understand any better, light will always be our metaphor.